Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be continuing our big AFL 2022 round reviews. In today's video, we are going to be reviewing all of round 7 of the 2022 AFL season. And I will tell you what a big round we had. It was a massive round of footy, some big contests. And so we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to spend about a minute on each game. And let's just go ahead, get right into things. Big round, as I said, we'll be starting with West Coast versus Richmond. So this game was a disaster for the West Coast Eagles, who again slumped to a 1-6 and actually hit the bottom of the ladder. 8-8-56 to 25-15, 165. The Tigers get the job done and they record the biggest win of the year so far. It was a dismal performance for the West Coast Eagles and they just couldn't really serve up too much, in my opinion. They just didn't manage to serve up anything that was really mind-blowing. And look, they had a goal at quarter time, 2 goals at half time, 4 at three-quarter time, and only the 8 at full time. And Richmond had 7 at quarter time, 12 at half time, 18 at three-quarter time, and 25 at full time. So this was an obliteration, and they get the job done by 109. The worm just kept on going down for Richmond, and they were fantastic. Some stat leaders here. Tom Lynch is the real obvious one with the 7 goals. It was not great for West Coast, however. But for the Tigers, this is a really big performance. A big game versus Collingwood coming up in round number 8. And I feel like they do have every chance to win this game, especially after a great performance like this. Again, it's not against a great team in West Coast, but if you can make sure that you're getting... This was a massive percentage boost for the Tigers. So, on to the first Saturday game, we go to GMHBA Stadium. Geelong 10-6-66 lose to the Dockers 10-9-69, and the Dockers establish themselves as the real deal this year, and besides Melbourne, one of the best teams in the competition. And they hadn't really had a real test. This was going to be their real test, and they manufactured it brilliantly. And they've just had stages in the game in their last few weeks where they have been able to just go away from oppositions, and they had this in this game as well. It may not be quite obvious, but you can just see in that patch there, end of second quarter, start of third quarter, they just have a bit of a momentum swing, which just sees them into a good position in this game to take it out. So the Cats, they did pile on like the first 1, 2, 3 or so goals of the contest. But the Dockers, they didn't think it was over by then. They fought hard to bring the margin back, and they did, to hold on to a 3-point win. They were fantastic. Here are some of the stat leaders. But yeah, what an amazing game for the Fremantle Dockers. And for the Cats, I wouldn't lose hope after this contest, but the Dockers, massive game for them. So the Giants, they responded in a big way after beating the Adelaide Crows at the Adelaide Oval. Adelaide 8-6-54. Giants 17-11, 113. So, of course, the Giants manufactured another brilliant performance last year at this very venue against this very team. And they did it again. And it wasn't great for the Adelaide Crows, who have put up some brilliant performances this year, especially at this ground. And the Giants, they had to respond at some stage, and this was the responding game for them. They responded well, and all the criticism that's been around them, they just played that as fuel for the fire, basically, and notched up this impressive win. And they didn't just win it, they won it by a lot, which shows they are still in contention. People may have rode them off already, but no, they can still bring it back, of course. Now, they haven't had the greatest of starts to the year, but this is a real confidence-boosting win, which could do a lot for their season. And here are some of the stat leaders. But yeah, it was a really important win for the Giants. To the MCG we go now for Melbourne versus Hawthorn. Melbourne 13-13, 91. Beat Hawthorn 11-15, 81. Melbourne defeat the fast finishing Hawks. Now, the Hawks, they start fast. That's what they do in their games typically well, and that's what they did against Sydney, and they finished fast as well and almost came home to steal it. But again, the Demons just too good, too strong in this sense, and they've been the best team in the competition for a long time now, and they just have these little patches where they're good. You can see one there, one there, one there, one there, and that is what seals the deal for them. So that is why they are the best team in the competition, because they just can bang on the goals, and they led by about 30 or so points at one stage in this contest in the third quarter, and it pretty much looked game over from there. You can see here are just some of the stat leaders. But again, it wasn't a great game for the Hawks, but they did play, they did contend, so that is the main thing. And the Demons, they had plenty of players out to COVID as well, so obviously knowing that they've got a lot of depth as well, so even if COVID does strike their club, they've got coverage in all sorts of positions. At Cazaly's Stadium, Port Adelaide pull off the impossible win, and if you saw this game last year, St Kilda versus Adelaide up at Cazaly's, Adelaide robbed them, Port Adelaide robbed them this year. The Saints, they just aren't playing well up there right now. They're not gone through a great stage up at Cazaly's Stadium for whatever reason it is. 4-18-42 to 5-13-43. Scrappy contest, 18 behind for the Saints. They could have won this game, and they should have won this game as well. And 13-5 for the Power. 5-13 for the Power. Same thing. They could have converted that around, and this could have been a way more high-scoring contest. It was wet. It was hot. It was humid. It was, wet and humid, and that's what makes interesting conditions for footy. And the Saints, they had this game early. Like, they had a pretty decent lead, up just over 10, but the Power, they were always in it. The Saints, they basically touched on a 20-point lead, and then got robbed, got choked, you could pretty much say, and the Power win in the end. After Robbie Gray's smarts, and he knew all they needed was a behind, and he got it, and there's been thoughts, has he been the most clutchless player in this time, which you could definitely say probably yes, but not a great game for the Saints, who end their good streak as well, because they've been on a good streak in the Power. 2 wins in a row. Big blockbuster clash versus the Dogs. They could be coming there. They're charging. Now, the second Saturday night game between Carlton versus North Melbourne. Carlton 17-12-114 defeat Kangaroos 10-4-64. The Blues, they win this one by 50 points, and North Melbourne, it's not their time right now, and they're not going too well. But again, the Blues, this was a big game. I feel like they need to have a convincing performance because their last few weeks have been far from good. Yes, they may have beaten the Power, but they just haven't been great. If you understand this, haven't been great. They just haven't put up any brilliant performances to show where they were in the first few rounds. And this performance, I feel like, steadies the ship. They've got Adelaide next week, so of course, a big steady the ship game as well. A big steady the ship, and a big game that could really bring them back to good levels. If they've got a few easier games in a row, and then against a harder team, they may actually be able to spring the upset, as they've had just a few easy teams, and when they beat these teams by this margin, it's pretty good. And you can just see there that third quarter was just absolute dominance. That's how they win. And fantastic by the Blues, because they've got a big win. I feel like it really does save their season. Not that it was in any needing of saved, but it definitely needed to be steadied a little bit. Just after their last few weeks have been a little bit inconsistent. This was brilliant. We'll go and check out some stat leaders. Here are some stat leaders, but again, fantastic game for the Blues. Get a real big confidence booster. Now, Collingwood, they've had a brilliant start to their year. 17-13-115, defeating the Suns 14-6-90. Collingwood, though, Jack Ginnivan, fantastic. He's been amazing. Of course, the ripping goal of the year contender, and then followed up with another brilliant performance. Here are just some of the stat leaders, and we'll get into having a look at the Worm and the final score. But it was a brilliant game for the Pies, and I feel like they have really started off their year pretty well this year by notching up some impressive wins, and they came very close to Geelong and Brisbane. So they've really been touching very well. They've really been very competitive. And this game, they always looked like winning. They were never really going to drop this game. The Suns had a few moments where they were going to be able to come in touch with the Pies, but look at that. Look at that big staircase up, and that takes them to a comfortable 25-point margin in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, another mini staircase, and they're back up to 30 points. The Suns try again, and the Pies get another staircase going back up, and they win by 25 in the end. And, the Suns, they had a chance to try and come back, but the Pies, they always had a healthy margin on the Suns, and that is why they won this game. Big clash coming up against Richmond for the Pies, and I feel like it's really important for the Suns. They've been a little bit hit and miss this year. You're not really entirely sure when they could pull the upset or compete. They did compete in this game, but again, not great enough. But the Pies, big big game versus Richmond coming up. Really interesting contest. So now the Bulldogs take care of the Bombers 16-7, 103 to 10-11-71. Not a great game for the Bombers, and they go 1-6. And now for making finals, there's a real big cloud over them, and I feel like you could probably, you can't write a team out at this stage, but you can start having thoughts about that. It was an interesting first quarter, 50-50 first quarter, and then in the third quarter, I feel like that's when the Dogs really started blowing out. In the second quarter, it was a bit of no team really made a big move, but in that third quarter, that was the quarter where the Dogs just said goodbye to the Bombers and won the game. And then in the final quarter again, it was a pretty even stint for both teams, but comfortable win for the Bulldogs. And look, big game versus the Power coming up, and this was just another comforting win that they needed to really save themselves. A big comforting win for the Dogs, and they do a good job. And for the Bombers, 1-6, not a great start to their year. So now on to the final game of the round, and Sydney 13-11-89 get defeated by Brisbane 17-11, 113. Brisbane win by 24 at the SCG, and it was fantastic. It was the first quarter that was very scrappy and all that. Second quarter was all dominated by Brisbane. Third quarter, the Swans, they had a big staircase here. They had a charge. They came within 3 points, I reckon. I think it was 3 points. It was either 3 points or 9 points, but I'm pretty sure it was 3. And then the Lions, they had their staircase back down and got out to another comfortable 30-point margin, and that is pretty much how it stayed for the rest of the contest. They got a good win, did the Brisbane Lions, and they needed this to establish themselves as the next best team in the competition other than Melbourne. Buddy Franklin kicked the 6 goals, and Lachie Neale 37 disposed, 142 fantasy, 9 tackles, dominating again. But big win for the Lions, and this is a brilliant performance. This is what they needed to establish themselves as the second best team in the competition other than Melbourne. And this was a very heavyweight blockbuster battle, and the Lions proved they were the better team. So, of course, look back on round 7. The Tigers got over the Eagles. The Dockers defeated the Cats. The Giants defeated the Crows. The Demons got over the Hawks. Power got over the Saints. The Blues took care of the Roos. The Pies got over the Suns. The Bulldogs got over the Bombers. And the Lions got over the Swans. Round 8, that is the round that we are now in. Port Adelaide versus Western Bulldogs. Heavyweight blockbuster clash Friday night. Can't wait for that one. Fremantle versus Western Bulldogs. Fremantle versus North. Going to be an interesting game to see where Fremantle are at and how big of a win can they get, or if North Melbourne can compete. But again, I do feel like Freo will win. And then Richmond Collingwood, heavyweight battle on the Saturday. Very interesting contest. Sydney versus Gold Coast at the SCG. Sydney, they'll need to win this one as well. And the Suns, you never know what they can produce. GWS versus Geelong. GWS actually, for some reason, have a chance in this game. I still think, though, that the Cats will get the job done. But again, could we have an interesting contest arising? Maybe. Brisbane versus West Coast at the Gabba. I don't really give a lot into that. But again, how big can Brisbane win? What can West Coast provide? Can they show up? Essendon and Hawthorn, big game for both the two clubs. Melbourne Saints, another heavyweight battle. But again, I feel like Melbourne, they need to try and win this one by a comfortable margin just to establish themselves. Carlton Adelaide, what can both these two teams produce? The ladder now. The ladder is looking very interesting. Melbourne undefeated. Every team is off and away, though, with a win. So here is what the ladder looks like. I'm just going to quickly scroll through it. And that is going to wrap up today's video. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys in another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much for watching. So bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.